Hi, guys. Welcome to Midweek Mindset with Emily and Annetta. Today, we wanted to talk about a principle that I've been reading about in a book called The Source by Dr. Tara Swart. In it, she talks about how the mind, the heart, and the gut should all be in harmony when we are going after what our goals are. So I think that leans into, our why behind our purpose. And I think today we could just talk about ways to get those things in harmony or keep them in harmony as we continue to progress in whatever we're working towards.
Yeah, it's such a really important topic. So I think those three are like the main keys to really getting what you want. You have to have your mind in order and you need a clear mind because if you don't have a clear mind, then you're always one foot in, one foot out, or you're second guessing yourself. And if you're second guessing yourself, that doesn't really bring you closer to what you want either. So it's like, having a clear mindset, like, "This is what I want, this is what I'm going to do to do whatever it needs to do to achieve it." And then the gut. I feel like the gut connection has been such a popular topic lately these days because so many I don't know about you, but, like, on my social medias, I've been seeing a lot of people who are, like, gut health coaches and people who specialize in gut health. I think there's so much when it comes to gut health because if you don't have a healthy gut, then you can feel bloated. Your mind doesn't have that clarity. And also on top of that, you always hear people say trust your gut. I always thought that was like a metaphorical phrase until recently. I'm like, no, it actually is. Like your gut is trying to tell you what to do. So I love like the combination of those three. And then your heart, like you need to move in pure intentions every day, and that also helps you bring you closer. Which one do you wanna start with?
Um, I guess let's just start from the top. We'll start with the mind. We talk so much about mindset. One thing that really, really intrigues me and is a rather new development is that neuroscience has found that our brain doesn't stop developing at age like 25, 27, 30, like we used to think. We know now that we can continue to create new neural pathways throughout our entire lives. So when I am thinking about my, next goals or projects, I literally envision like new neural connections being made. Um, and visualization helps me personally a lot. So what do you think about the mind?
What are some things that help you visualize? Like, what kind of setting do you need to be in? Do you need to be in, like, a calm space with a cup of tea or water? I understand. Or do you need to be, like, around people? What is that like to help create that visions for you?
Um, So it's typically like I work when it's quiet, right? Or I do like my stuff when it's quiet. So I have kids, I have a busy life. So the downtime is my time. So it gets filtered in there. So the quiet is definitely a sacred space. I would say it helps me connect with my thoughts. I'm able to hear them more clearly. Um, so
Oh, hold on. I think you're like a really perfect example on this though, because you do have children. So like, how do you incorporate that time into your life? Because with kids, it can be so busy. You're here, you're there, you're wearing multiple hats. For somebody who does have a really busy life, how can they incorporate finding those little moments?
Yeah, so one parenting hack that I'll share is quiet time. My daughter is 8 now, and we've implemented it since she was like a year old and phasing out of naps. We would do one morning nap, and then in the afternoon we would do a block of quiet time. So like she was supervised, but she was like in her pack and play or whatever with like an activity, like a safe activity, of course. But it would be like independent play for her and a time block for me to, as a newer mom, try to feel like myself for a minute. Um, at this point, both of my girls know that, you know, my life kind of shifted from working at work to my focuses don't look typical, but I'm still doing things and I need this time block. And we work on boundaries pretty heavy in our family. So,
Yeah, that's really important though. Like I like that like even at a young age you were incorporating quiet time because being I don't think I had it's always off the walls.
yeah, and kids are, and I get that. Like I've worked with kids in the past. So I know that um, they have so much more energy than I could even fathom in my 30s. Um, but that rest period is also good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. I love those tips.
Of course. Shall we move on to the heart?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I love the idea of being like heart-centered. So I think, the way these all tie together is really cool. Um, I don't know, I just feel like our heart gives us so much information. Even
Yeah.
from when we're such a young age, what we're realizing is what we're feeling.
Yeah, I think the heart connection is so powerful because it's like we're all givers and we're all like caregivers. I think it's just because that's what we're taught, like you see your mom or whoever is raising you, they're being a caregiver to you. So that's what you see at such an early age. And it's so easy. And that's when we get into the habit of being a caregiver to others. And oftentimes we forget about ourselves. I think having that heart connection, it's good to be a giver and be of service to others. At the same time, don't lose yourself while you're giving to others.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really important bit because even in a field like social work, it was rooted in, my heart's purpose, but it was at the expense of like all my other systems. So I think finding that balance too, because I'll just use that as an example. When I decided to leave social work, like my mind and my gut were both screaming at me, it's time to get, it's time to get, it's time to leave. And my heart was just like, I don't want to leave the clients and la 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 la. And like when I tell you all the ways the universe was pushing me out of that field, it was unbelievable from changes to gosh, like confrontations to a whole new work environment to drama within that. And to top it all off, I got bit by a dog in a client's house.
Wow.
And I was like, after that, I was finally like, all right, I I I can't do this anymore. Like
Yeah.
um yeah, it was crazy. So, when we talk about the gut, I think we could think of it in terms of, that gut feeling that we get, but also in terms of how the gut biome affects the whole system. Like, there's a saying that I hear going around now that the gut is the second brain.
That's so I wanna go back to what you were saying, though, about social work when you were working in social work, because how often like, this happens more often than it should be, but at the same time, we learn our lessons that we stay in something until we finally get pushed over the edge. You had to get bit by a dog to finally say, "Okay, I'm done." I had my fair share as well, like, I can relate with you on I knew it was time to leave the salon, but I didn't want to because I didn't leave my clients. So then, like, all of these things just kept piling up and kept happening, and I was just like, "Okay, I'll finally leave." So, I get that. It's like that story of, like, the dog sitting on the nail and the won't get up because it doesn't hurt enough. And
Yes, yes.
if that isn't more true, then I don't know what is, because we're not a dog sitting on a nail, but we're somebody sitting in a relationship that we know we shouldn't be, in a job that we know we deserve better, a friendship, but we won't go because it doesn't hurt bad enough. It's still comfortable to a certain point.
Exactly, and, when I think back, I kinda chuckle a little bit because, you know, I was such, like, a hypocrite during that phase in that, I've always had this mantra, "When the bad outweighs the good, it's time to go," and I just laugh now because I'm like, "Where was that mindset when I needed it?" And when you were
Yeah.
talking, it also reminded me of, this kinda, like, theory that I have that where there's a situation like this, where, like, there's a clear choice you have to make, I feel like if you don't make it, the universe or God will make it for you. Like, it's gonna happen either way.
Yeah, like, you're going to get faced with the same challenges until you learn your lessons. And so I mean, I get it. Like, I was in a relationship for 3 years. I knew I should have left the relationship a month 2, but I stayed for 3 years because I couldn't do it. I was just getting faced with challenges, and 9 times out of 10, it was the same one for 3 years until I finally left. And that's when, like, things started to click, like, at the end, it's like I just had to leave because there was no other option. There was no more, "We'll figure it out." There was no more, "You have your space, I have my space, and we'll figure it out in a few days." Like, it got so to the point where, like, most people have, like, a quality time schedule or, like, a date night schedule. I can tell you right now, we didn't argue schedule. Like, we knew what days we were gonna argue and what days we were gonna spend making it up, and then the cycle repeated week after week after week after week. It was the craziest thing ever. So, like, I get it when people don't wanna leave right away or they're not ready to, but as long as you know better, just be gracious with yourself. You don't force yourself to do something that you're uncomfortable with, but as long as you know you deserve better, you will eventually work your mindset up to leaving or going to get better. So that's like my one little 2 cents, a little piece of advice. Like, I get it. Change is
Yeah,
scary. I get it. Change is hard, but you will eventually get there as long as you know and believe you deserve better.
absolutely, absolutely, and I think that, when we, finally make that choice, I always kinda imagine a tough decision or hurdle as, like, a portal. It's, like, just outside this step is the whole next season, you know? So, that's definitely an optimistic take, but it's a mindset thing, you know? With change comes loss, and there are things that have to get left behind in order for us to fully flourish.
And I'll tell you, people will tell me all the "Hey, Aneta," like, I remember this was a year ago. When I first moved to Mexico, I would be like, meeting so many different people, and they would be like, "You know, Aneta, I know you're a positive person, but can you be a realist?" And I think there's a fine line behind that. You can be optimistic and choose to see the good in everything, or you can be somebody who is not a realist and you just ignore everything. And there's a total difference between that. And I was always somebody that would just want to see the good in everything. And I know you're like that too, because that's why, like, we get each other. So, like, you can be positive and be a realist at the same time. You're just choosing to see the good in everything.
Exactly, and, I don't know if it's my Gemini or if it has to do anything with my astrology, but duality is like second nature to me. Like I can see and feel both sides of any given situation. Um, and I think that's from exposure early on in life as well. Like I had to be hyper aware of the dynamics in order to stay safe. Um, but that's such a good way to phrase it is even when like two things are true at the same time, you can choose which one you water. It's like coming on the internet, we could come on and talk about all the negativity going on in the world. There's plenty to talk about, but does that really need our energy? I feel that our energy is much better spent in a healing space and a space that provides like understanding and some gentleness in a world that is so crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really just choosing to see the good in everything. Like, I mean, I remember, so like in Mexico, they have the rain schedule. So like rains at the same time every single day. Like, and it doesn't come early, it doesn't come late. Like it's on schedule.
That's
And
weird.
yeah, it was quite interesting. And I met like these people who were just visiting and they were like, "Oh, like it's raining again, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Yeah, but at least there's a schedule, you know what I mean? At least like we can plan our day in the morning and then 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 we stay indoors and we hang out and then after that we can go outside." And they were like, "Yeah, but it's just like," and then like, "You have to be a realist." I'm like, "Dude, I am being a realist. I'm trying to show you that we can do things in the mornings and then chill out in the afternoon." And it's just like really choosing to see the good in everything because if it's also raining every day, I get it that it can take a toll on people's moods, but what can you enjoy about it? Can you enjoy the tranquil of the calm of the rain and then enjoy your mornings? I really made me more of a morning person, if I'm being honest with you, which is great. I was waking up at like 6 a.m. and I was getting stuff done, and then 2:45 p.m., I feel one raindrop, you run inside.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. That is pretty cool.
It's like
So,
just choosing to see the good in everything, like, whatever it is. I know you can't control the weather, but, like, if it has that kind of consistency, then you can plan. You can't
yeah.
control, you can plan.
Yeah, that's a good one. You can't control what you can plan. And I think that that kinda goes along with our theme of, like, mind, heart, and gut balance because these are, like, all pieces to our own unique purposes. So for me, like somebody else might start from like their mind center or from their gut center. And I'd love to know what that experience might be like. Because always known like in my heart what I wanted to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's like, forgot my train of thought.
Oh, that's the worst. Happens so often.
It's okay, we're human. And, it's like, this is also a really good example of, like, even though, like, we're in the middle of a conversation and I lost my train of thought, it's like, it's okay. Learn to laugh at yourself too, because if you don't learn to laugh at yourself, then you're always gonna be hard on yourself, so don't be hard on yourself, Pookie. A
Oh,
lot of words.
yes, and you know what? I was reflecting on, how we often lose our train of thought, and I was like, "You know what? We just inspire each other so much that new ideas keep popping up all the time."
Yeah, I remember I was, like, at this one, like, seminar, and he was like, "Raise your hand if you have, an idea every 30 seconds." I'm like, "That is so me, oh my god." I was like, "Can I raise both hands?"
That is so true. Yeah, and that's, yeah, so applying that, like, when we have a lot of thoughts or for somebody else who maybe has frequent new thoughts, What's a strategy you might use to reel them in? Because I know sometimes I'm like, "All right, Emily, like, what's going on here?"
Yeah, I would always say, like, one of the things that I learned early on, and now I see, like, some people talk about on social media, s as much as you can, as fast as you can, and learn as much as you can, because the more you learn, the more that you're gonna fall forward, and the more you're gonna figure out what's meant for you. Like, for example, when I was younger, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was gonna be older. So I did as much as I could. Like, I worked at a restaurant, I worked in retail, worked as a nanny, I worked in an office setting. Like, I did everything that I could to find what really I enjoyed. And I'm just like saying, like, do as much as you can, sir, because it's like the faster you can learn what you like and the faster you can learn what you don't like, the faster you'll get to your purpose. Also, while you're learning all of those things, you'll be able to understand like your strengths and your weaknesses. And then when you understand your weaknesses, you can eventually delegate those tasks to other people. So I'm like a big believer that like just keep learning, just try. When I was with my ex-husband, like he really wanted to start like an online business. And this was back in like 2020 when it was like starting to become more popular. And we tried everything, like, we tried so many different online businesses within the span of a year, not even probably, like, drop shipping, print on demand, buying inventory and selling it, and all of those things, digital products. We would just figure out what stuck and what didn't, and I'm thankful for that because when I left the relationship, I had more knowledge about what I can use moving forward instead of playing that game of what works and what because now I have more knowledge on digital products versus and drop shipping and stores and things like that. So just like learn as much as you can as quick as you can.
Yeah, I really like that because, when I was learning website building and at the same time as writing the book, um, it was just like so much information, but the way I paced through it and, the dedication to learn it, I think really like, came in handy. Like, I was able to see the end goal, and that's what got me through the process of learning because it's not always easy, especially when, we create these visions or these ideas and then we're going after them. I feel like we don't always realize how many steps it takes to get one single thing done. I noticed this morning, actually, I was on a website, and I was like, "Wow, this is a really nice website." And I was like, "You know what? People probably don't think about that when they are just scrolling through a standard web page. Like, a good one is hard to make."
Yeah. And it takes time, effort, and energy. But like if you can learn those skills early on, then you're already ahead of the game. So it's like, what can you learn? And take that and just to the next because making that website for that specific business didn't work doesn't mean the website's didn't work. It's just the business. So how can you take that website skills and translate it to your next? So it's just, I guess, reusing skills into different adventures.
Exactly, and it's so funny we're talking about this because I was just flipping back a couple pages because the other day, I was, like, getting in my own head, and I made a list of what's working and what's not working, and I just went through, and then I synthesized and got my solutions. So much better, so much easier. Now I'm keeping what works, what doesn't work is gone. So, I think when we're able to know ourselves well, we can streamline that process, especially when we're doing, like, creative or independent projects.
Absolutely. It's just like just figuring it out and not being scared. Like I get like, people, it can be scary going into the unknown, but there's nothing more scary than knowing this. and you're not willing to go try.
Exactly. That's such a good motivating, uh, statement. There's nothing scarier than not doing it.
Well, this is, like, so funny to, like I don't know why this example is just coming to me, but, like, we've all seen Alice in Wonderland, and it's like, if she didn't try as many opening as many doors as she could, when it's taste me or drink me, and if she didn't try that, she would never know what's on the other side, and on the other side was something beautiful when she opened those doors. S That's just kinda what I'm thinking. It's Alice in Wonderland.
I love that movie so much.
It's the best. It's the best. I can leave you guys the piece of advice today. Be Do it scared, do it scared, do it when nobody's watching, and do it if nobody's watching. Because if nobody's watching you in the beginning, that's actually great because that's great practice for you. Because when you do build your community, when you do build your followers, then you'll be more skilled and you'll be more professional in what you're doing. So be an optimist, try to see the good in everything, and just go do it forward, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, and, you know, it's scientifically proven to help when your minds and your heart and your gut are working in harmony. So getting to know yourself makes everything Annetta just mentioned a little bit easier.
Absolutely. Alright, guys, fear is your brain creating fictional scenarios of the future you cannot you accept this fear. So true. It's like the biggest roadblock we have is just this it's telling us no. So tell your mind, yes, today is the day I'm gonna do something different. Yes, today is the day I'm going to change this. And that's where magic really is.
Yeah, and that's a great tip too when your brain is trying to tell you no. Give it some pushback. Give it some pushback just because it's comfortable doesn't mean it's what's best.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again next week at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Bye, guys.